بعد أكثر من 8 أشهر من القصف الجوي بقيادة السعودية على اليمن، فإن حوادث مثل استهداف الأعراس والتي راح ضحيتها مؤخرا 130 شخصا قد أصبحت مألوفة بنحو مقيت، هذا إضافة إلى استهداف المدارس. حتى الآن أكثر من 2400 مدني قتلوا منذ بدء العدوان في نهاية آذار المنصرم بحسب الأمم المتحدة. كلير تالو مديرة منطقة الشرق الأوسط وشمال أفريقيا في المنظمة العالمية لحقوق الإنسان قالت: من الجلي أن الدول التي توفر المعلومات الاستخبارية والدعم للتحالف بما فيها الولايات المتحدة قد تتهم بالتواطؤ في جرائم حرب. كذلك فإن منظمة العفو الدولية بيّنت ما أطلقت عليها جرائم حرب مرتكبة من قبل التحالف في صعدة. كذلك مركز كارنيجي للشرق الأوسط قال إن الدعم غير المشروط الذي توفره الولايات المتحدة والمملكة المتحدة ودول غربية أخرى للتحالف قد أتاح المجال للسعوديين في أن يكونوا أكثر إمعانا في الدمار باستخدام القوة المفرطة. الأستاذة مارثا مندي المتخصصة في أنثروبولوجيا العالم العربي تحدثنا عن التبعات التي ستخلفها سياسة الأرض المحروقة في اليمن على المدى البعيد.
So it's very difficult to speak of the future. One needs to think of the present and of ceasing this and moving towards political talk and to somehow frighten the powers that are backing Saudi Arabia in this, which certainly include Britain and France, not only the United States of America, and probably behind the scenes Israel, because we certainly know in good authority that they were asked by the US to give intelligence at the very least, and there are of course other reports.
And you have talked in one of your articles about that.
Yes, in the article in Counterpunch. I've tried to think about that, in particular in relationship to some of the wilder aspects of this war, whereby it appeared that somehow the Gulf powers, because it's not only Saudi Arabia, it's also the Emirates and Qatar and Kuwait and so forth, not Oman of course, who are involved in this, were somehow persuaded that this would be a bloodless war for them. So when they lost a number of troops in Mara province some month and more ago, they went wild. I mean, this was simply not on the cards. So how this, I don't believe that there was no foreplanning here. I mean, that it's just sort of evolved as a reaction. I believe there was some foreplanning, just as there was for Medinat al-Nur and for the Nur Bridge, but some of this
between Djibouti
and
Yemen,
foci around Bab al-Mandeb, which Ansar Allah, i.e. the Houthis and the government had never threatened. I mean, international, but there were wild dreams that somehow were, in a sense, promoted or sold. There was a strong statement from the European Parliament in early July, which got no coverage whatsoever, by the way, and which addressed some of these issues. There have been letters by a group of us academics from the very, practically the very beginning of this conflict, but it seems that the decisions are being taken at a certain military level whereby they, just as bombing the MSF hospital in Kunduz, as though these powers believe that they are totally above the law in any form and moral obligation. And it simply makes no sense, even for Saudi Arabia in the long term, because and this is where I think finally some of the regime intellectuals, if you want to put it that way, in the West, particularly in the US, are beginning to get worried. Because what will happen if you absolutely destroy the country of Yemen? It's just going to quietly die, so to speak. This will create reverberations for generations to come.
True.
And since there's been so much destruction of infrastructure, and you are brutalizing people, and we all know that if you brutalize people in the wars, I mean, Yemen was distinguished, let's think just back a few years, in the movements in 2011, 2012, even after Ansar Allah came in to Sana'a, they came in relatively without a shot, right? Parts of the army went over to them, and they also came in on the back of popular demands, such as against the fuel hike. And then there was a peace and national dialogue. I mean, the Yemenis didn't use violence in their uprising against the regime, and they also talked to each other time and again, under UN auspices and outside of UN auspices. And it is that potential of Yemen that might yet save it. But I mean, people cannot be brutalized to this extent
because
without breaking people. We know that historically.
Right. An observer also said that this war is not, if you just talk to the civilians, both the Sunnis and the Shia, they would say that this war is an economic, a political war, but it's not a sectarian war. And they have been using, the international actors, these local issues, in order to provoke. And to show it and to sell it as a sectarian war.
The whole coverage in the Western media, and this applied even to good newspapers.
If there is any coverage in the Western media.
Well, I'm talking over the last couple of years, okay, not even before. Yemen started to be treated in the guise, so to speak, of Iraq or the sectarianism of good old Lebanon here. Whereas this is ridiculous. I mean, the Zaydis and the Shafi'is are simply not, sort of proxies for Twelver Shiism and Wahhabism or whatever, whereas, of course, this war is unintelligible once you start trying to put it into those terms, and the Western media, at least, has been doing that consistently. Clearly, when you have violence, and one knows that from all the wars of the region, whether it's Iraq or here or Syria, when you have enormous violence, people will, tend, and you destroy state institutions, people tend to have to kind of lock in to certain forms of identitarian clustering.
Yeah, Dr. Mārthā, the childhood is also under attack in Yemen. And the facts are very chilling. Overall, around 1.8 million children are likely to suffer from some form of malnutrition this year alone, an increase of almost 12 million from the previous year, which is 2014. Over 500,000 of these children will be at a risk of severe acute malnutrition in 2015. Also, the Yemen Ministry of Health recently reported that more than 650 types of medicines have disappeared from the domestic market due to the blockade, and 900 health facilities closed since late March. Yemen's children did not start this war, but they are bearing the brunt of this war and the consequences of this war. What can be done vis-a-vis this status quo? I mean, not by the government, but the people, at least, the civil society networks. How are we going to help this mass genocide?
Because of the coalition blockade, we can't help them at the moment. That is where the war crime is. Thereafter, personally, I've tried, and my speaking here today with you is not because I'm a political or an aid worker. It's because I'm a concerned person who knows something and knows something of the history of the country. If you brutalize children, and they survive, the same is true of Syria. This will mark the country for a very long time to come. Schools are closed. I've seen a kwashiorka child in Yemen in the old days. You don't see that and ever forget it. You don't see a child who's dying like that of malnutrition and ever forget what the child looks like. It's one thing to see it in pictures. It's another to see the actual child dying like that. So it is absolutely vital, but I mean the other Arab countries too have been either involved in support or silent, practically, partly because they have their own fights on. But I think that if this stops, then a totally new policy for aid needs to be developed. We need to go back to the years. I mean, in fact, in the demonstrations, they held up the pictures of Ibrahim al-Hamdi, who was the only president who was backing, collective organization in the villages, the cooperative movement. You need to rethink development policies for poor countries, the destruction of great historical monuments, of great historical cities, of
the history and the culture of the people,
of the universities, the research centers, the schools. I mean, these are of course also war crimes.
Right, Professor Mارثا Mandi, specialist in the anthropology of the Arab world. Many thanks indeed for joining us.
Many thanks to you, and I hope that my anger and passion about what is happening in Yemen didn't confuse the clarity of my remarks.
You're most welcome, ma'am. It was very clear. إذن لقاء جديد في الأسبوع المقبل مع ضيف جديد وقضية جديدة ودائما من الداخل. للمزيد من التواصل بريدنا theinside@almayadeen.net وصفحتنا على الفيسبوك من الداخل. من كل فريق عمل من الداخل من كل الميادين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.